ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings.
I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings.
And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out.
15 million views and counting. That's how many people have watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's takedown of Trump. But what's got everyone so riled up? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. In the next few minutes, we're gonna break down why Arnold's calling Trump a failed leader, how he's comparing the Capitol riots to Nazi Germany, and why he thinks some Republicans are as spineless as a jellyfish. Remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger was just flexing his muscles on screen? Well, now he's flexing his political muscles, and boy, is it a sight to behold. Our favorite Terminator has gone from action star to governor to Trump's worst nightmare? Talk about a plot twist.
And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out.
I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings.
These two larger-than-life figures used to be buddies, believe it or not. Back in the day, they were probably comparing biceps and arguing over who had the most outrageous catchphrase. But somewhere along the line, things went sour faster than milk left out in the California sun.
The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster.
And I take over your job, and then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
So what happened? Did Trump steal Arnold's protein shake? Did Arnold accidentally step on Trump's ego? The truth is a bit less dramatic, but way more interesting. As Trump's presidency rolled on, Arnold started to feel like he was watching a real-life disaster movie, and not the kind he could solve with a well-timed one-liner.
Ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings.
President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election.
At first, Arnold tried to play nice. He probably thought he could reason with Trump, maybe over a game of golf or a friendly arm wrestling match. But as time went on, our Austrian oak realized that reasoning with Trump was about as effective as trying to teach a T-Rex to do push-ups. Arnold's criticism of Trump grew louder and louder. He wasn't just throwing shade, he was throwing whole trees. It was like watching a political version of Predator, with Arnold hunting down Trump's policies one by one.
President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. But what are we to make of those elected officials who have enabled his lies and his treachery?
He called out the Republican Party too, basically saying they had less backbone than a jellyfish. Ouch. But what finally made Arnold go nuclear on Trump? Was it the hair, the tweets, the cough? Nope, it was something much bigger. Arnold watched as Trump's actions threatened the very democracy he'd sworn to protect when he became a US citizen. It was like watching his adopted country turn into a real-life version of Total Recall, minus the three-boobed alien lady. That's when Arnold dropped the bomb. He called Trump the worst president ever and a failed leader. Coming from the guy who fought actual movie villains, that's saying something.
Within hours, the Senate and the House of Representatives were doing the people's business and certifying the election. Now, over the past few days, friends from all over the world have been calling me distraught. And from those days, I remember a phrase that is relevant today: a sermon's heart.
It was like Arnold had decided to terminate Trump's political career, one blistering comment at a time. Folks, it's time to get serious. Our favorite action hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger, isn't just flexing his political muscles anymore. He's sounding the alarm, and it's scarier than any Terminator movie. Why? Because he's seen this horror flick before, and he's worried America might be the sequel. And picture little Arnold growing up in Austria after World War II. Instead of a happy childhood, he was surrounded by a bunch of sad sacks drowning their sorrows in booze. These weren't just any old drunks though. They were the leftovers of the Nazi regime, trying to wash away their guilt with schnapps. Arnold says many just went along step by step down the road. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right?
He sought a coup by misleading people with lies. My father and our neighbors were misled also with lies. They're complicit with those who carried the flag of self-righteous insurrection into the Capitol.
But here's where it gets personal. Arnold's own dad was part of this merry band of misfits. He'd come home plastered, yelling, and hitting the family. Talk about daddy issues. Arnold explains, my father would come home drunk once or twice a week, and he would scream and hit us and scare my mother. Yikes. These guys were hurting inside and out, carrying both physical and emotional scars from the war. Now, you might be wondering, what's this got to do with America today? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because Arnold's about to connect some seriously scary dots. He's looking at Trump and his MAGA crew, and he's getting major deja vu. It's like watching a rerun of his childhood nightmares, but this time it's playing out in the land of the free.
It was a night of rampage against the Jews carried out in 1938 by the Nazi equivalent of the Proud Boys. They did not just break down the doors of the building that housed the American democracy, they trampled the very principles. But the mob did not just shatter the windows of the Capitol. They shattered the ideals we took for granted.
Remember when Trump's fans decided to redecorate the Capitol? Arnold saw that and thought, hey, I've seen this before. He compared it to Kristallnacht, that nasty night when the Nazis went on a rampage. Talk about a historical burn.
Now, I grew up in the ruins of a country that suffered the loss of its democracy. Wednesday was the day of broken glass right here in the United States. The broken glass was in the windows of the United States Capitol.
But Arnold's not just throwing shade, he's genuinely worried. He's seen firsthand how a bunch of lies can snowball into something truly terrifying. I know where such lies lead, he warns, and he's not talking about little white lies like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. He's talking about the big, fat, democracy-destroying kind of lies. So what's got Arnold's biceps in a bunch? He's afraid America might be taking a stroll down memory lane, the bad part of memory lane.
It means serving something larger than yourself. See, what we need right now from our elected representatives is a public servant's heart. We need public servants who will serve higher ideals, the ideals in which this country was founded. We need public servants that serve something larger than their own power or their own party.
He's saying, hey America, you're looking a lot like pre-World War II Germany right now, and trust me, that's not a good look. It's like he's trying to stop us from buying a really ugly outfit that might lead to the death of democracy. Arnold's not pulling any punches, folks. He's calling on all of us to be democracy's bodyguards, flexing our civic muscles to protect the peaceful transfer of power. It's like he's directing a blockbuster movie, but instead of explosions, we've got truth bombs. And boy, did those truth bombs set off a global chat fest. Who knew the Terminator would become the Truthinator? Arnold's words spread faster than Trump's lies, proving that even an old action hero can teach new tricks about standing up to bullies. It's like he's saying, I'll be back to defend democracy. So what's the final scene in this political thriller? It's us, the everyday Joes and Janes, becoming the real heroes. We're the ones who need to terminate the lies and pump up the truth. After all, in the fight for democracy, we can't afford to say, hasta la vista, baby, to our freedoms. Time to channel our inner Arnold and flex those truth-telling muscles.